Hey, love. Welcome to No Matcha, No Mama, the podcast where we pour a little matcha and a whole lot of truth. Each week, I sit down with someone I admire, founders, healers, creatives, and friends, and we sip a matcha I've made just for them based on what they love. I like to do everything with intention, from the ingredients in your cup to the conversations that we have. And this show is more than just about talking. It's about exploring how we can truly thrive through all the mess and magic of being human. Here we start with matcha because how we start matters. So today on No Matcha, No Mama, I'm sitting down with someone I've admired for a really long time. Some of you may know her as Vees Honey, Vanessa Fitzgerald. She's a true force in the wellness space, known for her honesty, depth, and the way she embodies everything that she shares. Vanessa has built a community around helping people reconnect with their bodies, their intuition, and their inner truth. What I love most about her is that she genuinely lives her work. She evolves publicly. She's honest and about the hard parts, and she carries the grounded, compassionate energy, which is very rare and refreshing. So I'm so excited to have this conversation. Let's dive in.
Wow, I love that intro. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. So I made you a gingerbread matcha with
delicious
coconut cashew milk and some collagen because I know you're breastfeeding.
Wow.
So matcha is my ritual. I start my day with it every day. And I was wondering if there is a ritual that you start your day with that really helps ground you.
Oh man, my rituals have sort of flown out the window these days because I'm pretty much woken up to a baby that needs to eat right away. Mm-hmm. So I would say my morning ritual now is after I feed the baby, and usually it's quite early in sleep deprivation. So I try to use it as my meditation. So I just try and close my eyes and go inward while she's feeding. And then I usually pour some electrolytes into a giant, I think it's like 32 ounces, my water bottle. And I chug that before I have anything else just to make sure that I am replenishing my body because the hydration is so key to the breastfeeding. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. I remember that. It does not feel good when you're dehydrated. No. And you're constantly dehydrated because when you're breastfeeding because everything is just going to the baby.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I did it for a year, almost a year with my son. And like 9 months with my baby girl that I just had. It's
I'm at like 3.5 months and I'm already like, wow. Like,
yeah.
I mean, listen, in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to go to a year, but we'll just see.
Just freeze.
Yeah.
Freeze as much as you can.
Like crazy.
Yeah.
So we have a backstock. So I'm like wondering if I'll make it to 6 months and then tap into my freezer. Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to figure out what that looks like just because it's breastfeeding, no one tells you what a journey that is.
Oh my God. Completely. It kind of throws you for a loop because you go into it, you have no idea. Mm-hmm. And then the hormones are just so intense. Mm-hmm. And by the way, when you stop breastfeeding, the hormones can be pretty intense too.
I was told that. Also, like I always thought breastfeeding was like, it's like that Ali Wong stand-up skit. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, I have.
I totally thought like, everybody's like, it's the most natural. I'm so tired of hearing that on Instagram, on Reels. Like, breastfeeding's the most natural thing in the world.
Sometimes it doesn't feel natural at all.
No, because the baby doesn't just like find the nipple latch and it's like, that's the end of the day. And like, it's just this like beautiful bonding. Sure, there are moments like that, but it is work. Like, she wants to latch. She doesn't want to latch. We had to do like tongue tie, lip tie.
Oh my goodness.
Now she's a cheek tie we're looking at.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, then she gets distracted because she's seeing things more. And sometimes I put a towel over her head to try and like,
by the way,
the boob. It's like, what is happening?
The older she gets, the more like distracted she gets. Yeah. Like now I have to feed my daughter. She's 11 and a half months. She needs to be like in a dark room, even though I'm feeding her a bottle because if someone else is in the room, she'll like want to jump and hang out with them. So
I've seen that with my friends' kids that are a little bit older. Their heads like going like this and the bottle's just like going all over their face. I'm just like, this is so crazy.
Yeah, it's a wild journey.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
Wild.
So I want to switch into a different topic a little bit, away from breastfeeding, but we'll get back to it. You've been really beautifully transparent about your experiences with ayahuasca. And for someone who knows the buzzword, how would you describe what it actually is and what kind of inner pull like led you to sitting with it in ceremony?
So ayahuasca is a plant medicine. Mm-hmm. It's like the plant medicine. The I mean, I don't want to butcher it because I'm not like the ayahuasca expert, but from my understanding, it's a spirit, right? So you have other medicines that are like psilocybin and, you know, ketamine's considered a medicine, but these aren't necessarily a spirit within, you know, a medicine. And ayahuasca comes from a tree bark in the Amazon, I believe. And then what they do is they turn it down to a liquid that you drink. And it is like a very thick, syrupy, to me, it tastes like mole mixed with like a Asian plum sauce.
Interesting.
I can't eat mole anymore.
Is it gross?
Well, it's funny because my very first time there, when I first tasted, everybody was like, that had done ayahuasca before, were like, oh, I can't. The taste. Like one woman had like honey packs that she was ready to suck on right after But when I took my first swig, I was like, oh, this is pretty tasty because I like plum sauce and mole. But by the time you are done with the retreat.
Because of everything,
I literally cannot touch anything that has a resemblance of those flavors anymore.
I imagine.
It's so nasty. It's really nasty. So, and it's thick. So you drink it and it's a heavy psychedelic experience. What we say is it's the grandmother. That's the spirit of the medicine. And she shows you not necessarily what you're going into, not necessarily what you want to see, but what you need to see, what you need to learn. So there are different things that can happen within a journey, an ayahuasca journey. There can be something called a consultation where you are consulting either with yourself or someone else within the journey. When I say someone else, it's like you're imagining it. It's not actually happening. Or it is in a different dimension. There's consultations. There's surgeries, like spiritual surgeries that can happen. They usually say it's by like a praying mantis or an octopus. Those are usually the beings that people see, like that'll work on their heart or whatever is going on in their body. Or robots will come in. Like I had like a surgery on my. Sounds so funny, but on my ovaries in a journey but it felt like it was a robot coming in and like turning cranks and things like that. And you know, it's just very, ayahuasca is like a deep journey into oneself. If you have any blocks in life, if you have any PTSD, deep pain, depression, anxiety, literally anything and everything, ayahuasca can help you get there. Now, I believe with any medicine, it's not like this is the one size fits all. I don't think it's for everyone. You have to be called to the medicine. So when I say you have to be called, it's like either you're really thinking about it heavily, you start studying about it, you're hearing about it all the time, and then somehow you end up in a ceremony. You're like, oh my God, how did I get here? It's not something that I would ever coax someone to do because that would be a disaster. You really have to feel drawn towards doing this work because it's probably the hardest work you will ever do in your entire life. It's so confronting and so painful. And there are some people that will actually go and sit and the medicine doesn't activate in their body. But for me, and what my understanding is from what I've learned from the shamans, that sometimes it just means that the spirit is not, can't go there with you. Or some people just fall asleep and they wake up after the ceremony is over. And it's almost like it's deep work within the retreat center I went to. They call it a nada, where you just like doze off and you're asleep and you're doing the inner work while you're asleep because it's that deep. Like it's too much for you to be awake.
So you don't even realize that it's happening now?
Yeah. So you're just like asleep and it's doing its work. And then all of a sudden you're awake when the ceremony's over. So, which I wish would have happened to me. But yeah, so the reason why I went to do ayahuasca the first time is, well, honestly, I don't really know why I went the first time. My girlfriend kept telling me to go. And I was single at the time when I booked it and just kind of like, well, you know, maybe this will open up something in my life. Maybe I need to go deal with some inner child stuff, family stuff. I'm willing to do whatever. And I had done other psychedelic journeys before. So I thought, oh my God, it's just, you know,
Gotta be one of those.
I can just do this. So I went, and it was sort of like I got my ass handed to me because my ego was like, oh, we're just going to go do drugs in the jungle. First of all, it's like not a drug. It's definitely a very serious medicine I would not mess around with. You really want to go in with very skilled people and like a skilled center for sure with very, very seasoned shamans to help guide the medicine. But I got my ass handed to me on the first night because it was, I had no idea what I was in for. And then I didn't know what I was there for until that first night, until I was shown why I was there. I also believe that when we go to do any sort of these psychedelic experiences, it's really important to do the work sober afterwards. So a lot of people will chase one psychedelic journey or go and do ayahuasca 12 times, keep searching for the answer. The answer is you. And at the end of the day, in order to get there, we have to live in the sober world as well.
Yeah.
We need to be able to access that we need to remember what we learned, what we saw, and how to translate it into life.
Yeah.
And that takes, guidance, integration coaches, therapists,
It's
whatever.
more work.
It's more work. And the work, they say you go to do the work and then you do the work. It's like, it's not just like a one and done.
Yeah.
But for me, it really helped. And for most people, from what I can hear from our shared experiences, is it helps unlock where at the end of the day, we are all blocking ourselves. We are in charge. We are the director of our own movies. Sure, there's been so much pain and there's been trauma and all these sort of things, but are we going to remain the victim, or are we going to start to be the boss of our life and own how we are attracting these things essentially, and learn how to forgive and how to heal and things like that. And we are in the way of ourselves. That's my greatest takeaway is like, we are always, if something's going wrong in your life, you really have to look at what frequency are you at? Like, what frequency are you vibrating at? What are you attracting? And what is your belief system? What do you believe that you are? It's just the law of energy.
Yeah.
And it's tough. So, and the healing is the hardest work. It's the most painful work you'll ever do.
It always is.
Yeah.
I think that's a really big one. The victim is, I feel like a lot of people do live in that and they can't get out of it. It's like a loop.
Yeah.
And then every interaction, they play the victim.
Totally.
And I empathize with that. It's a little bit sad because you can never move forward if you're constantly stuck in loops.
And I get that. And I have empathy for the victim card as well because, it took me a long time to understand, to stop playing the victim. But like, there are people in very serious situations. We're talking about abuse, rape, things like that.
Yeah.
And how do you explain to them that this victim mentality is not serving them? To take ownership. One of the hardest things, I once had a client come in who was sexually abused when she was 4.
Yeah.
And it took her a journey to understand that there's something in her karmic, life and whatnot. And it happened. She had to accept what happened. And then now in her daily life now, she still plays the victim from that role, attracting more abusers, not in that sense, but like verbally abusive or whatever it was, until she was like, oh, I am calling this in. I'm bringing this in with the way I feel about myself, the way I think about myself, the way I carry myself. And as soon as she realized that, her whole life changed.
Of course. What you put out there, you get back. So if you're putting out a negative type of fear-based frequency, that's the same thing that's going to come into your life.
100%. And it's such a tough, painful thing to hear. But when I saw her move from that deep victim, I mean, she played
pain.
Deep pain. She was so offended by anyone who would even bring up anything to try and show it to her. When she saw that, I was like, okay, anyone can heal and get past this and move past this and find forgiveness. And forgiveness is hard. It doesn't happen overnight. Like one of my journeys, I was like, I'm coming in to forgive X person and I'm going to leave and I'm going to be like all rainbows and butterflies. And no, not at all. It was like, basically, you are not ready to forgive this person. And what you went through was real pain. But what are you going to do? You're just going to take a step every single day towards forgiving that person. Whatever it is you have to do, you're just going to take, and it may just come with time. You may not even have to do anything. It'll just come because you're putting the intention out there to forgive. But also, it's not like spirituality isn't, there's like the ego spirituality of like everything's rainbows and butterflies and I love you and you love me and I just love everybody. And it's just, that's just not real. Real spirituality is walking your authentic path and being extremely vulnerable, because we need more vulnerable people in this world. So to be deep in your spirituality is just to be honest with where you're at. Hey, I'm not ready to forgive this person right now. I still harbor a lot of anger, but I'm doing everything I can to get there. That type of thing. Not spiritually bypassing and going, you know, oh, I forgive this person. I send love and positive energy towards them. If you're not really feeling that, it's just not, it's not going to work.
Well, also admitting, like owning up to the fact that you can't do something or you feel something, that's important. Like acknowledging something that you're feeling is important, right?
100%.
Especially with when you can't forgive somebody, right?
Acknowledging is one of the first steps to healing. It's like in AA, acknowledging you have a problem, you know what it is? You just have to acknowledge it.
So what would you talked a little bit about what your bigger takeaways were from the ceremonies, but do you think that those ceremonies helped you find Ben? Like what you learned from that helped you attract Ben? And I know originally, I'm not sure if you were planning on having kids. Was that something you learned from those experiences, like Joe Dispenza workshop, or did you decide that with Ben as like an intentional move forward?
Totally. So before I went into ayahuasca, I had already started. I've always been a seeker, but I had like started my journey towards, well, I didn't really know what I was doing until I got to the ayahuasca ceremony and I realized everything was coming to this moment. But I originally had signed up for Joe Dispenza because of a chronic eye issue I was having. My eye would swell and then it would like sink in.
Yeah, I remember seeing a lot about that.
And it would control my entire life. Like it would control how I would function throughout the day, like how I would think about myself. It was just debilitating. And so I went to Joe Dispenza to try and, you know, use my mind in order to stop this reaction from happening. And the whole time at Joe Dispenza, every time we would have to go to our heart, all I would feel is cold cement. Like in somatic therapy, they have you go in and on parts of your body and imagine what color is there a material around it? Is that organ a material? Is there a texture? Is there a smell? Is there a temperature, right? All I would feel is cold cement around my heart, just hardened. And I couldn't quite get to it. I didn't know what that meant, but that's all I felt.
It was like a block.
It was a huge block. And I was in a relationship that I was really forcing. And because everything on paper was great, but it just wasn't quite right for me. And after Joe Dispenza, I'd broken up with that person. And then I just got to the point where I was just so fed up with myself where, you know, we want to work on ourselves. We also don't want to be so hard on ourselves. But I was at the point where I really was understanding that I was the master of my reality. And what I learned from Joe Dispenza is that I create my reality every day. And I needed serious help. At that point, it wasn't just doing his meditations and trying to do it on my own was not working. So I found a hypnotherapist to help me self-hypnotize myself out of self-limiting beliefs, and a like spiritual, she's not really a licensed therapist, but like a spiritual coach who really works with like Eckhart Tolle's pain body theory. And I was working with her for 6 months. And what I worked with her on was a lot of my love patterns. Because if there's one thing I wanted more in the entire world, my entire life was like my partner, my best friend. I would fantasize about it more
Everybody
than the
does.
family. Yeah. More than the family. Most people are like, oh my God, I really want like the wedding and the kids. All I wanted was like that partner. And so when I went to ayahuasca, I just started working out of like a very toxic pattern of mine of like calling on exes when I felt insecure and trying to keep more people, you know, in my buckets just in case, you know, just not healthy whatsoever. And I just started dating Ben And I wasn't really giving Ben the proper chance at all. It was kind of just like one of those just like, you know, side hustle sort of things. And when I signed up for ayahuasca, slowly, because they say the medicine works in you before you go do the medicine, I started to feel these things in my body where I was realizing like, oh my God, I'm getting physically ill from the way I'm living my life. Like all these juggling of like, you know, calling this person or not calling that person and trying to date, you know, multiple people at one time or whatever it is I was trying to do is just so unhealthy. My body was breaking down. So I ended it with everyone focused on Ben, but I still had a block towards Ben and I didn't understand what it was. I just thought, oh, you know, maybe it's just someone, again, I'm just dating, you know? And then we got really close like the week before I went to ayahuasca. And I was like, oh,
the second time?
Yeah. And I was like, the first time I went to ayahuasca. And I was like, oh, you know, I think I feel something for this guy, whatever. And then I go to ayahuasca and I'm like, okay, they're going to show me all my trauma with my mom. And, you know, I'm going to see my whole childhood and maybe it's going to reveal something I don't even know, you know, things like that. And the whole journey was about Ben, which was
interesting.
So wild.
Because you had just started dating, right?
Just started dating. Wasn't like it was like on my, like in my mind, I'm like, I'm just dating this guy, you know. It wasn't like, I need answers from this person, you know. It wasn't like also wasn't some sort of unhealthy thing where I was like pining after a guy who was playing hard to get. That wasn't that. Ben was there and he was fully available. So there was nothing I was thinking about. And as soon as I got in, it just showed me that I don't know how to give and receive love properly. That I don't let love in, that I am completely blocking myself, and that I blame everybody else for where I am at, rather than taking ownership of how much I am just like, ew, love, go away. But I think I am so loving. It was so bizarre that I play the game of vulnerability, but I'm not actually vulnerable. Like I'm better like online being vulnerable than I am one-on-one in a relationship. So it was showing me all of these things and it was really painful to see because it just showed me where I had blocked myself my whole entire life on so many different levels, whether it was friendships, relationships, family. It was really painful to see all of that. And then after that, it showed me that, you know, Ben has come as my greatest teacher in love and in life. Which now that we have a kid, I'm learning like even more so what that means. But that and just that he has, if I pass this opportunity up with him, then that's it. Like I'm really like, this is the person I've sort of like, he turned into like an avatar in my ceremony. It was like, you've designed this person from your, you know, subconscious of like what you really wanted. And
you attracted him in.
Yeah. And he's here and now you're behaving like a brat, essentially. And I don't respect the masculine. You know, I grew up with a single working mother. So like, you know.
You didn't have that role model.
No. So, and also she feels the same way. Like kind of men are kind of like are dumb or worthless or, you know.
You learned it from her probably.
Totally.
Yeah.
So I saw that too about how there's like really, there's a lot of power in submission in a way until like if you want to, I would find myself and a lot of my single girlfriends running around going like, there are no real men, but we would go constantly and emasculate a man, just completely castrate him and go like, why are there no men showing up? You know, like that's such an aggressive way to be. And it's polarity. It's the law of polarity. I'm not just saying, cause like even like same sex couples, like you got to have like the masculine and feminine, and it switches, you know, and sometimes the male is more feminine and the woman is more masculine and, you know, whatever it is. But it just showed me where I was, you know, playing that game wrong as well. And so it brought Ben in. And as far as kids were concerned, you know, I always thought my whole life, like the point of life is like you get married and you have kids. But I wanted kids for the wrong reasons. Then when I had my career, my want for kids was sort of shifting. And I wasn't like, I felt so fulfilled in my career that I didn't need a child to fulfill me. I also had no idea what having a child entailed.
Nobody does.
No.
Unless you have one.
You don't until you actually have the child. Because I was like, oh, now I got it when I'm pregnant. I don't have it. So So basically, Ben and I were having so much fun together that he asked me, he's like, when do you want to have kids? And I was like, to be honest with you, I've never had so much fun with somebody. I've never had a best friend. I've never felt so free in my life. I don't know if I want a child. He's like, oh my God, I didn't know that was an option. I don't know if I want one either. So there we were, just kind of like maybe no kids. And then I was feeling, I would notice like in my relationship with Ben, you know, I was acting up in a lot of different ways. As relationships do, they mirror your shit and it comes up and you got to deal with it. So I realized, oh, wow, there's a bunch of other stuff I still need to handle. And Ben had gone to Hoffman and it really changed his life. So I thought, okay, that's next on my list. I want to go check out Hoffman. So while I was at Hoffman, that's when I realized, well, I do want this experience of becoming a mom, because that's where I got to deal with all of my childhood patterning and childhood trauma and stuff like that.
It is where you deal with that for sure.
Totally. And that's when I was like, okay, it's time to talk about kids. When I got back, Ben wasn't there. He was like, wait a minute. I thought we decided like probably no kids. So it took us about a year of having a conversation about it. And then Ben himself did a couple journeys and realized this is what I want as well. And then there we are. And then the second time I went to ayahuasca was all about, my intention was heavy to go in to heal my motherhood wound and like call in a child. And it did actually give me a lot of that. It was a lot of like, it was a lot softer with me, but it was like a different kind of pain. It wasn't like this physical jarring exorcism I had the first time. This time it was like just a lot of grieving for whatever, ancestors, myself, ailments in my body, how I've treated my body, grieving for my lost childhood, things like that. And then coming to peace with all of it.
And that's interesting because when we get pregnant and then have a baby, there's a huge grieving process that happens afterwards because you no longer have the life that you once had. You have this baby you need to take care of. You can't take any days off. You literally aren't the same person. I changed both times I had kids. Yeah. You just become a different human being.
Totally. And I was not prepared for that. I mean, I was still in the grieving process. Yeah. And it's hard too because, you know, before I had kids, I didn't understand it. And I don't always think to myself, I'm like, you chose to have a kid. Like, you chose this. So, like, why are you complaining about it?
It's normal.
But it's so, it's like, it's almost like it's like not necessarily, I'm sure there are people that like complain, but for me, it's just, I didn't realize how heavy the grief would be for, and I think it's different for everyone, but for me, as someone who was living so free, was able to travel at the drop of a hat, I run my own business, you know.
Stopped immediately.
I'm an only child. It was like the list, like it could not become more difficult for like someone to like adjust to motherhood. And in many ways, I just seamlessly, like this was like, oh my God, this is a calling that I was meant to have. And I feel so, like Ben always says, I am happier and less anxious. But at the same time, I'm overwhelmed and in grief. So it's a different kind of thing that's happening. My anxiety is gone, but I have this I cry a lot. Half of it is hormones for sure. But then some of it, the time I'm like, you know, it's the realization that like life will never be the same again. This is a roller coaster ride you cannot get off of. And there are no days off. So, and this is just how it is. And then there are moments where you just break because you need to break. You need to process. It's just part of processing it. I'm not one to just sort of like steamroll over something and go, okay, buck up. Let's just, you know, pretend like this isn't happening. I give myself the room and the space to be able to process. And then I move forward, you know?
Yeah. It's a wild, crazy ride. Like you can't get up and just do whatever you want to do because you always have to think, well, what about my kid?
Totally. And especially if you're coming from like, when I come from the journey space, because now like the journey space is what takes over a lot of the way I handle things. I draw upon my lessons that I've learned, but it just feels like having a kid is one giant ayahuasca journey. I thought it was just going to be birth, but it just has continued on and it's not ending. And like I'm on that journey and I constantly am learning lessons about myself, about her, about my partner every single day. It is changing everything. My partnership, me, the way I relate to my mother. It's life altering is like a understatement.
You kind of have a deeper understanding of your mom in a way, like you respect them more and you relate to them more.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And some of the things that you might have had an issue with before might not exist because you're like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah. I have way more respect for her. I have way more compassion and empathy for her. I mean, she did it
especially
alone.
As a single mom, right?
Yeah, which is so insane. Like I really can't imagine. I probably would not have made the decision to have a child if I were alone.
Yeah.
And the fact that she did it and I'm here and I am who I am, I mean, that is also a lot having to do with her. Even the most painful parts, she gave that to me and I rebelled against some of it, which made me who I am today. I wouldn't be in the healing space if it weren't for her. And someone once told me, it was like a therapist told me that she is the inspiration behind what I do for a living. And I never thought of it that way before. So I have her to thank for all of it, the good part and the bad part and whatever it is. And the funny thing is that she doesn't think of it that way, like, oh, I was a single mom and I did this all on my own. Because I think it's true what they say, like you get amnesia. So she's kind of like, oh, I just, whatever, I did it. That's what people do. Like she can't even remember, like the way she is with my daughter, it's like she's kind of forgotten, what it's like.
What I was going to ask this at the beginning and then I didn't. Can you talk a little bit about your background and what you do for a living, aside from obviously being on Instagram and sharing?
Yeah. So I have a private practice in LA. We do something called nutrition response testing. That's the original modality. I've shifted into cellular nutrition therapy. It just makes more sense to the ear. But basically, it's a form of muscle testing that works with the body's autonomic nervous system. So we work, basically the autonomic nervous system runs every single thing in your body. It tells you to walk, blink, chew, think, all that sort of stuff. And it's comprised of the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. And if those are out of alignment or there's certain neurons that aren't, firing and wiring like, or wiring and firing like Joe Dispenza says, your body's not going to operate the way that it should. And it's the basis that if cells can degenerate, why can't they regenerate? So we work on feeding cells to help the body come back into balance. And we look for the root cause using a form of muscle testing and frequency vials. So we test for parasites, bacteria, mold, heavy metals, emotional imbalances, so many different things. And we deal with anything from like autoimmune disorders to hormone imbalances to your run-of-the-mill cholesterol issues, diabetes, anything and everything, depression, anxiety, anything that's chronic, we deal with. And we're usually people's last stop because they're so frustrated with everything else they've tried. Because what we do is pretty outside of the box. We do offer virtual and in-person. And we just help people heal, essentially.
Yeah, I'm familiar. I see somebody for that, too.
Amazing.
So I am on board and I love it.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Let me just see what to get to here. I'm just going to ask you a little bit about your home birth experience.
Yeah.
Was the idea of home birth always something that you wanted to do, or was there something that kind of triggered it for you while you were pregnant?
I always thought, when I was living in New York in my 20s, I had a girlfriend who gave birth at a hospital in New York, but in a birthing center in the hospital. So she had an unmedicated natural birth using like a birthing ball in a tub. When she told me that, I thought, oh, wild. Like, that's what I want to do. But like, insane. I would judge people for not being at a hospital. I'm like, that's so dangerous. Like, you have to be at a hospital. So that's kind of what I stuck to for a while. Then after I started doing different medicines and whatever it was, I was more curious about what a home birth looked like, but still leaning towards a birthing center. And then I dated a surgeon. And I used to talk about when we had kids, I was like, if we ever have a kid, I want to have a home birth. I think, or at least be in a birthing center. But the birthing centers in LA are not in the hospital, other parts of LA. And he told me that I was a murderer and that I was it's something like that. I was insane. Like the trauma I would be putting on the baby and myself and just this whole thing. And that's when I also realized probably not the best match for me. But, so I still was like, oh, maybe he's right. Maybe it is dangerous. Then when Ben and I were dating, and I think this is right before we actually got pregnant, I was like, I really want to watch this documentary. Will you watch it with me? I think we were trying to get pregnant at this point. And it was The Business of Being Born that Ricky Lake did in the 90s. Great documentary, though. So we watched this documentary, and I realized, oh, my God, why? We kind of both left it going, why wouldn't you give birth at home? And at the end of the documentary, by the way, this girl had to be rushed to the hospital from home. So, but just learning about it, we're just like, why not? Why wouldn't we do this?
Or at least try.
So I was low risk. Nothing was wrong. Got pregnant very easily. So I started to look for a midwife and a doula. And I started to meet other women who had multiple home births by the same midwife that I had hired. And I started to feel very confident about it. I did a lot of hypnobirthing leading up to it. Once we decided on that, there was never a second where we got scared from somebody's story.
That's great.
I had to protect my energy. Of course, some people that have gone for home births and had to be rushed to the hospital or had something bad happen.
It's a traumatic experience.
It's a traumatic experience, and they want to share it with you.
Of course.
At the same time, while, doing what I do for a living, I want to be able to hold space and listen. I also had to protect myself and be like, I'm so sorry, I cannot hear this because of my decision that I made and what I was committing to. And at one point, I was even watching so many home births, great, successful home births, but for some reason, every time I watch a home birth, I'm just sobbing hysterically. So Ben cut me off after my 12th video. He was like, goodness. We're not watching these anymore. And Ben even watched them too, and he just wouldn't flinch. It was just he was just always like, okay, yeah, sure. And I think maybe because he was raised by two hippies, so who knows? Wow. And so we worked so hard. So we prepared nothing for the actual baby to arrive, but we prepared our asses off for this home birth. And we're like, we got this. And it was an insane journey, but it was amazing. Probably, I'm trying to decide. I used to ask women in ayahuasca, I'm like, what's harder? The ones that had unmedicated births. I was like, is it childbirth was harder or ayahuasca? And they all said ayahuasca.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of hard, though.
Totally different kind of hard. Because it while people are like, oh, was it like being in the journey space? I don't know, because for me, I would draw upon the journey space to push through the painful parts.
Oh, interesting. I was going to ask that.
So but I didn't feel like I was in a journey. I didn't
No. Yeah.
I didn't transport to another place. I was just using I was just remembering all the tools I have in my toolkit in order to get through the pain.
Did that give you strength?
Gave me so much strength. The contractions, I feel like I did really well through. That was great. When it came to the pushing, that's when the real, non-spiritual, very human part of me came out. And I was like, what is happening? In between pushing, I would look at my backup OB ended up being the one there because my midwife got a call for another birth. And so they split duty. So it was my backup OB and my doula and Ben. And I would stop and I'd look at them and be like, I chose this. What was I thinking? Why would I do this to myself? And then I would think I would scream at the OB to pull her out of me. I'm like, just reach up there and pull her out of me. Oh my God, I know you can. It just feels like your body's splitting in two. I can't describe. In hypnobirthing, we're not supposed to use the word pain. It's a sensation. It's an opening. It's an expansion. But when I started pushing, I was like, I'm a doula. I was like, this is fucking painful. This is not a sensation. Are you kidding me? I had no idea. But to me, there was no turning back, there was no, I had to push through that. And that was I wasn't like in some sort of altered state. I was very sober. I was very much there, but I did have to go very deep inwards to access all of the things in my life that have taught me that, you know, life is hard at times and you can overcome, you can do hard things. Like you can do hard things is what I just had to keep telling myself over and over and over again. Like, this will end. I can get through this, but not if I am tightening. That's literally what happens. So like in hypnobirthing, you know, a lot of times in home births when women have to get rushed to the hospital, it's either for a pain thing or because the pain's so great that they tense.
Well, that makes sense because you're like, oh my God, this hurts so badly.
And then they don't dilate and then they have to go in to get induced.
Pitocin.
So for me, I was like, I can't do this. I could feel myself like clenching. Like I was afraid TMI, but my butthole's going to rip open. And I was screaming that it was going to rip open. And my OB was like, I promise you the baby's not coming through your butt. And I was like, I really feels like it is. But I knew that I was clenching my butt. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be, it's never going to end. I'm going to have a problem. Like I really got to like really just like let loose. So I really was just focusing on like letting go and letting go of control. Like you're not in control anymore. That baby is in control. Babies are in control of like how they want to come into this world. And so it was the greatest lesson in letting go of control. And yeah, the pain was just so insane. I don't want to like try and sugarcoat it for anyone. And it's different for everyone. My girlfriend had so much pain during contractions and the pushing, she said, felt good because it was like coming out.
Oh my gosh.
For me, it was the complete opposite. Contractions, I was like, okay, I can do this. It was the pushing that was just so insane.
How long were you pushing for?
An hour and 10 minutes, which they say is very fast for a first-time mom.
But it feels a long time when you don't have any medication.
It feels like forever. And it feels like forever, but also like nothing at the same time because you have no concept of time. Like I was in labor for 27 hours.
Yeah.
But, you know, only 5 of that was what we call active labor for those that haven't been in labor. And active labor is like when you're like pretty much inaudible and it's like the most painful part of it. But that 5 hours, like I had no concept of like how long it was happening and I didn't know what time it was. All clocks were hidden. Like it's not like I had my phone on me. Like it was, you're definitely in like a portal.
What would you say to somebody if somebody's thinking about home birth and isn't sure, is more open to it, but is kind of scared, what would you tell somebody?
It's all about your team. You really have to find the right team. For me, it was a midwife. Midwives always have to have a backup. I chose my OB to be my backup. My OB does home births. So she's not your typical, you know, OB. So everybody was on board. Everybody had the same philosophy. Nobody was fighting each other. I chose the best doula for me who specializes in hypnobirthing. It was all about my team. And because I trusted them, because they were so confident. I mean, my OB was sucking on a blow pop basically while I was screaming during my contractions. Like the chill level was beyond. Like everybody was just like so in this meditative chill space while I'm losing my mind, you know?
Because you need that.
You need that. And you also have to do research. Like you really want to ask your midwife and your OB, like how many hospital transfers do you have a year? Because that also goes to show whether there's an actual medical emergency, but it shows that their level of confidence. And sometimes caregivers can transfer when there's no need to transfer. Or if anybody panics, if there's a moment of panic, of energy in the room when there's absolutely nothing happening, that can shift birth completely because it's all about the hormonal dance. You want oxytocin, kissing, hugging your partner, like trying to get yourself dilated. Like you want to stay in that. That's what the playlist is so important, all of this sort of stuff. And like, it's real. It creates the hormones in your body. And as soon as the cortisol kicks up and you're in fight or flight for whether it's you that creates it or someone else in the room that is not holding space properly, forget about it. Labor shuts down. So it's all about the team. It's all about the team. And talk to women who have had successful home births. That helped me so much where they're just like, yeah, like, you know, I did it. It was hard, and nobody could really explain to me how. I would ask them about the pain. I was getting really nervous because I'm like, I really want to know. Like, come on, tell me. And they sort of, you black it out. I didn't black out. I'm like, I fully remember that pain. But these women were just like, I don't know how to describe it to you, you know. And one woman was like, it's so hard. There's no other way to say it to you. It's so hard. But once you're through it, you're through it. And the recovery, to be honest, is a lot easier. What I've heard is because you're not detoxing from the Pitocin and the epidural. So your body just kind of recovers a little bit faster. Some people get migraines from the medicines, or they get really itchy when it's coming out. So that's what I would suggest. Like, talk to people with successful stories, and also find like a really good team who really knows what they're doing.
Okay. That sounds good. I mean, I didn't know that much about it. I've just obviously heard. I mostly hear about the horror stories.
For sure.
And that scares you. Yeah. So
we all love drama. It's more interesting than happy stories, you know?
For sure. Okay, so I'm going to end with a prayer.
Yeah.
May we carry what we need, release what we don't, and stay open to the magic that is still unfolding. Thank you for sharing your hot heart and sipping your matcha with me today.
Beautiful. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for listening to No Matcha, No Mama. If you loved the episode, share with a friend, leave a review, or come say hi on Instagram. My handle's at Dina De Laurentiis. If you want to connect with my guest, Vanessa, her handle's at Vees Honey. And don't forget to subscribe to my podcast or my YouTube channel if you never want to miss an episode. And remember, thriving takes intention. See you next time.